From being the first daughter of the United States to a host of the Today Show, Jenna Bush Hager has had an interesting life, to say the least. And that's not even all there is to her. Join us as we dive into Jenna Bush Hager's stunning transformation. George and Laura Bush had twin girls Jenna and Barbara Bush on November 25, 1981. Named for her maternal grandmother, Jenna was born 1 minute after Barbara. In a CNN profile of Laura, she shared that she and George had even taken some of the steps towards adopting. After conducting a number of interviews that would have enabled them to adopt children, Laura found out she was pregnant. Exciting news, but the pregnancy was not an easy one. Laura shared that while pregnant with Jenna and Barbara, she developed toxemia, a life-threatening condition. As such, she gave birth via C-section 5 weeks early in order to ensure her health and the health of the babies. George shared of the experience. "I was in the operating room. I'm an emotional person. I got weepy, and then I realized our life had changed forever in a positive way." We're pretty convinced that Jenna Bush's little rebellious streak in elementary school provided some quality stories for her parents to tell. Jenna attended Preston Hollow Elementary School, and as noted by the community's local online magazine, she got up to some shady business as a kid. The magazine all but ratted Jenna out when they shared that the then first grader slipped her Secret Service detail, only to go back onto the playground to play with a friend. What's more is that Jenna and said friend made up an elaborate story about being kidnapped. While her security team bought the story, Laura Bush was not convinced. High school is already a rough time, but imagine your dad running for president on top of it. That was the reality for Jenna Bush. She was in her last years of high school when her dad, George W. Bush, ran for president for the first time. As noted by the New York Times, Jenna and her sister Barbara attended Austin High School. Nope, they didn't go to some swanky boarding school, and that was intentional. Their parents thought public high school would help them become part of the community, but really, all it resulted in was Jenna being voted most likely to trip on prom night. In fact, Jenna shared that prom was a particularly brutal part of her high school experience, as the boy she was supposed to go with stood her up. She shared with Hello Magazine, "He knows who he is. I had the prom dress and everything, and I was ready to go. He dumped me, and then he invited the prettiest girl in school." The press can be pretty brutal to a president's kids, and given what Bill Clinton's daughter Chelsea was exposed to, it makes a lot of sense to find out that Jenna and Barbara Bush were kept out of the spotlight as much as possible during their dad's first bid for the White House. As noted by the New York Times, aides to the campaign wouldn't speak about them, their college decisions, or any information pertaining to their lives, which, given the high-profile nature of their father's career, is quite an accomplishment. At the time, Jenna and Barbara were generally unknown to people outside of Texas, and the New York Times even described spotting the girls as akin to seeing the legendary monster Bigfoot. College can be a slippery time, and although their father was the president, Jenna and Barbara Bush got up to some scandalous behavior in college.
Oh, the Bush twins, those wild Bush twins.
As noted by the BBC, Jenna was out in Austin, Texas when she was caught by police drinking a beer. Because she was 19 and under the legal drinking age, she was ordered to complete an alcohol awareness course and was sentenced to 8 hours of community service. The White House at the time issued a brief statement saying that it was a, quote, private family matter. However, just 2 weeks later, both Jenna and Barbara were stopped by police in Texas due to underage drinking. Jenna pleaded not guilty to lying about her age to buy alcohol, and Barbara pleaded no contest to the charge of underage drinking. As it was her second offense, Jenna was fined $600 and ended up losing her license for a month as a result of the charge. She also had to fulfill more community service hours and had to take another alcohol awareness course, as reported by NBC News at the time. After initially staying out of the spotlight, Jenna Bush joined George W. Bush on the trail in 2004. George was up for re-election, and given that the then 22-year-old had stayed out of politics, it made sense that the campaign wanted to use Jenna and Barbara Bush's youth and relatability. As published in Scripps Howard News, both Jenna and Barbara first made their way onto the scene in a fashion spread in Vogue. The girls shared that they loved to steal records from their mom's extensive collection and that the only reason they wanted to get involved in the campaign was because they loved their dad. Jenna and Barbara also revealed that sushi was their go-to food and that the Mandy Moore film Chasing Liberty was not at all authentic to the real-life experience of a first daughter. As a recent college graduate, Jenna Bush decided to hold off on making her first career moves in order to help her dad campaign for a second term as president. But in 2004, it was revealed to the Washington Post that Jenna had plans to stay in Washington, D.C. and work as an elementary school teacher. At the time of the announcement, the White House did not disclose what school Jenna would be teaching at, but the Washington Post learned that she'd be taking a position at Elsie Whitlow Stokes Community Freedom Public Charter School. The school didn't confirm Jenna's employment at the time, given that a formal agreement hadn't been made yet, but the director, Linda Moore, instead told the Post about the school, providing a glimpse into the type of environment Jenna was teaching in, saying of the students, "They learn who's homeless in this country and who's hungry in the world. We emphasize preparation for citizenship. We emphasize increasing students' knowledge of other cultures. We are preparing them to be leaders in the community." While teaching seemed like a great fit for Jenna, she soon turned her attention elsewhere, and Jenna moved to Latin America and became an intern with UNICEF. In an article she wrote for Fatherly, Jenna explained that the organization's commitment to protecting and improving the quality of life for families around the world was inspiring, and that while she was in Latin America, she met some incredibly motivational women, writing, "Young mothers who, in the face of terrible adversity, were determined to improve their situation and give their kids the best possible start in life." Jenna's work with UNICEF seemed to have an incredible impact on her, as she has maintained her support of the organization in her time post-internship. She even became the founding chair of UNICEF Next Generation and continues to fundraise for the organization. Of her time in Latin America, Jenna wrote for UNICEF's website, "My mother and those mothers taught me how to be a mom. Now I appreciate the importance of giving back and showing compassion even more since I had my own precious daughters." Jenna Bush's time spent in Latin America inspired her to write a book. Anna's story, A Journey of Hope, is based on the story of a teenage mother who was not only struggling with raising her child, but was also battling HIV. The book became a bestseller on the New York Times list and projected Jenna into a new realm as an author. In her first televised interview with Diane Sawyer on 2020, Jenna expressed what the book meant to her and shared what it was like to hear the real Anna's story, saying, "She stood up in front of everybody and she said, 'I want everybody here to know that we're living with HIV/AIDS. We're not dying from it.' The more I got to know her, the more inspired I became." Perhaps you've noticed, but we've only been referring to Jenna Bush as just that throughout the telling of her transformation. But now we're up to 2008, the year that Jenna Bush transformed into Jenna Bush Hager after marrying her fiancé, Henry Hager, who is now on the board of directors for the Bush Center. The ceremony was held at the Bush family ranch in Crawford, Texas, with Jenna's twin, Barbara, serving as her maid of honor. On his return to Washington, D.C., George said, "Our little girl Jenna married a really good guy. It's all we could have hoped for. It was just a special day and a wonderful day, and we're mighty blessed." In 2009, it was announced that Jenna would be leaving her position as a teacher in Baltimore, Maryland, for a new gig as a Washington, D.C.-based contributing correspondent for NBC News. As noted by The Observer at the time, NBC executives made the announcement, crediting her impressive appearance on NBC's Today as contributing factors to her hiring. Hager, who got her degree in English from the University of Texas at Austin, was set to cover a variety of human interest and feature stories. Jim Bell, the executive producer of NBC's Today, said of Hager's hiring, "Jenna is a terrific addition to the Today team. In previous appearances, she displayed a natural ability to communicate and connect. She has great passion about important subjects, especially education and literacy, and we look forward to having her bring her unique perspective to Today."
Why are you not sweating?
I am sweating.
It's like you have ice in your blood.
I do have ice in my veins.
And I have hot chocolate.
Shortly after her first book, Jenna and her mother Laura Bush teamed up together on a number of projects, one of which was a children's book. Their first book, Read All About It, focuses on the story of an elementary student who loves everything about school with one notable exception, reading. The book became a smash hit, and since its release, it has received positive reviews and feedback from readers. The The mother and daughter duo must have enjoyed their initial collaboration, because they teamed up again and released another children's book entitled Our Great Big Backyard, which served as an ode to the National Park Service. She went on to write another book with her sister Barbara called Sisters First, which went on to become a New York Times bestseller. The book was later turned into an illustrated children's book, yet again solidifying Hager's place in literature. Most of us know Jenna Bush Hager as the co-host of the 4th hour of NBC's Today, a position she's held since Kathie Lee Gifford stepped down in 2019. On the show, Hager said of the move, "It feels humbling and I can't believe it. My dad just wrote me 3 words, which made me weep. He said, 'Very proud dad,' which I'm like, what is there to be proud about? I'm just drinking wine in the morning." Hager paid her respects to Gifford, who had been on the show for more than a decade, saying, "If I can use some of your grace and have a half of what you've done, my life will be a very happy one." Laura Bush and George W. Bush loved to spoil Jenna Bush Hager's 3 children, Henry Hal Harold, Poppy Louise, and Margaret Mila Laura.
As George says, grandchildren they're the wonderful part about old age.
That's right. Jenna and her husband have welcomed 3 children, and they celebrated their first holiday season as a family of 5 in 2019. As noted by People, the year marked a significant one for the entire Bush family, as both George H.W. and Barbara Bush passed away in 2018. Of course, no one could have expected what 2020 brought to the table, and Jenna revealed while on NBC's Today that the holiday season of 2020 marked the first time she had seen her parents in more than half a year, due to the restrictions set because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more list videos about your favorite presidential family members are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.